It wasn't just people who were brought from Africa during the transatlantic slave trade. It was knowledge. Knowledge that helped give birth to the world we live in, without most of us knowing anything about it.
Africa's contribution to world culture has been pretty much ignored. I'm traveling to Lalibela to see one of the wonders of the world. It's an 800-year-old Orthodox church carved into the ground out of a single piece of rock.
It's quite magical.
Absolutely.
I'm meeting the world's leading expert on African fractals.
So tell me about fractals. What are fractals?
Fractals are just the simplest thing in the world. So it's simply a pattern that repeats itself at different scales.
So when you're looking at a building like this, you're seeing the crosses on top, big, medium, small.
Right, you've got the cross within cross within crosses on the roof. At the very center is a sort of X form. You can think of that as the self-reproducing heart of the fractal, where the thing emanates from. If you look down into the interior here, you can see that the ripples of that cross continue from the base of the church. This is really a geometric theme that occurs again and again and again in these African structures.
This is a different way of looking at the world than Westerners are used to.
Yes, that's right. Nature has this fractal geometry. It has this self-similar geometry to it. A tree, for example, you have a branch, and then that branch can have branches, and those branches can have branches. Clouds, so clouds are puffs of puffs. You see that in mountains, peaks of peaks of peaks.
Snowflakes.
Yes, exactly. So you have this fractal scaling in nature. But I was looking at these aerial photographs of African villages, thinking to myself, dang, those look like fractals. And that's when I realized there must be something culturally specific, right? Some form of knowledge that's going into these. Once you understand fractals and you can sort of read them, that whole African indigenous knowledge system opens up. It's all over Africa. You see them in Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso. I've seen them in Ghana, in Cameroon, South Africa, east to Tanzania. Just beautiful arrays of these fractal algorithms. In Addis, there's a whole building that's a fractal building. It breathes. It has a fractal perforation on the skin. And so they've massively cut the need for air conditioning.
And it took the West a long time to recognize these patterns.
It wasn't until 1977 that the first book on fractals was published. Africans had been using it for centuries before then.
Did African fractals have an impact on the world?
Yes, through a mathematically related fortune-telling system. You're doing these random lines, you're counting them off, drawing all these lines in sand. If there's an even number, you put down 2 strokes. If there's an odd number, you put down 1 stroke. And when I went to these folks and asked them if they could tell me more about it, they said, no, this is a secret, I can't tell. So I had to go through the initiation ritual to become a Bamana divination priest. So what I found was that back in the 12th century, this system went up into Europe, and it was taken up by the alchemists. Now, Leibniz, the German mathematician, when he invented the binary code, he was actually studying this system. And then it goes from Leibniz to George Boole, creating Boolean algebra. Boolean algebra gets turned into hardware by John von Neumann. That's the birth of the digital computer. So all those little ones and zeros running around in all of our digital circuits really start with that African origin. There are 2 different paths that you can take in mathematics. One is to think about how to impose order from the top down. One is to think how to allow order to emerge from the bottom up. One of my hopes is that we can now recover that process that was interrupted by the slave trade